I finished Moonstruck, which is Norman Jewison's film. I forget his name. Norman Jewison's film. I don't know. This is why I say, like, I'm not the biggest comedy human. I know a lot of people are always nostalgic for, like, early 2000s comedies, and people complain, like, today's comedies don't do anything. But for me, like, every single generation's comedies, I feel like have, like, never done anything to me. If I end up liking a comedy, the comedy needs to have some type of, like, comfy, romantic, maybe sweet fucking moment before I'll actually feel like I like the film. In Hong Kong, it's not Jay Chow. Jay Chow's the singer. Who the fuck is that guy called? Stephen Chow. I think I actually kind of do like visual comedy. Not like Charlie Chaplin stuff when I remember like the set design or the costume design because how ridiculous it is. I find that very enjoyable. Yeah, I don't know if like the abstract visual stuff is funny. To me, it's more like, oh shit, this guy's wearing a chicken hat. That's pretty cool. That's pretty unique to see visually. And then I like it. In Moonstruck, it's way more of dialogue gag. I did find Moonstruck kind of fun just for Nicolas Cage. And I do think Nicolas Cage is such a bizarre actor, and I'm kind of surprised he was acting bizarrely right from the beginning. I was genuinely surprised in Moonstruck. He still seemed to be the same meme-worthy guy. This is something I saw. Nicolas Cage said that his acting technique that he considers is novo shamanic. It's a lot of interesting words. New shamanism or something. Oh wait, I didn't put on my ear headset, so I actually have to do that. You're not a biggest Nicolas Cage fan? I mean, I'm not sure if I am either, but I do find his acting kind of crazy.
You've developed an acting discipline that you've referred to as nouveau shamanic. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What are the core principles?
I've been told that all actors really hail from the early medicine men and the shamans in the villages pre-Christianity, where they would put on masks and act out, and really they were probably pretty crazy, but they would go in and find answers to questions. Today you're called psychotic if you do that, but it's all semantics. So what I would do is I'd put on Afro-Caribbean paint, like a white and black paint, and black out my eyes so I look like this sort of Afro-Caribbean voodoo icon.
I mean, that's like pretty similar to like blackface too in a way, which is pretty funny.
Then I would sew in bits of Egyptian artifacts that were thousands of years old into my costume and gather some onyx or tourmaline or something that was meant to have vibrations, and who knows if it works or doesn't, but for me it was an idea of like trying to stimulate my mind or trick my mind into believing I was this character from another dimension. And I would walk on the set and then wouldn't speak to anybody, wouldn't say a word, so I projected this aura of horror, which created fear in my fellow actors, which then inspired me to believe I really was this character.
Even when he's talking in this interview explaining his acting, it just looks like he's still acting his acting style. This looks too weird to me already. Does anyone talk like this in real life? What's that type of acting where someone tries to be in character for a bit? People say Christian Bale did it for The Machinist by starving himself for a bit. But he's trying to say, like, his thing is a little different. I'm not entirely sure why, and it's kind of interesting to me. From The New Yorker, there's an article that says, enduring strangeness of Nicolas Cage. Cage's performance seems slightly off. Too big and perhaps too artificial for a film that needs grounding in real emotions. It is funny every single time they kind of start off with something like this. Cage's performance is just absurd. Why is it so bizarre for a film that's supposed to be grounded? It's almost as if Cage is wearing Paul as a mask. But we soon realize that Paul, slightly off, too heightened for his surroundings. As we watch him rehearse social interactions and recite canned jokes, it was clear that he's in pain and rage, and he has pasted on a visage of a happy family man. When that Cage peels off to reveal yearning, desperation, and monstrous ego hiding underneath. But Cage's casting is important to the film for more than one reason. With its lacerating examination on dehumanizing effects of viral fame, you can see it as a commentary on how the internet has changed the way we watch and appreciate Nicolas Cage, which is one of the first movie stars to become memeified. I mean, this is also very interesting too. As I say, like, when I'm watching Moonstruck, one of the reasons why I'm kind of confused that Nicolas Cage is already this weird and crazy is because the crazy scenes I know him best are the memes. It is true that the internet has like basically changed his career a little. But the fact is, in Moonstruck, he's already been like this. So has his career been changed? I'm trying to look at like his older movies. I think I first saw him in National Treasure, and then I watched him in Next when I was like a baby. Was he such a memey actor back then? That I don't remember. I mean, this is interesting, like Raising Arizona. Is he super memey in this movie? I'm gonna guess he is because it's like so close to Moonstruck. My current understanding of Cage is a very internet memeified version of him, and he's sort of embraced it. He's sort of been like, yeah, that is me. If that's the case, then he shouldn't be like this before the internet, but he still is. So that's very interesting. Cage is now in his 5th decade of a career that spans more than 100 films and has included stints as a teen heartthrob, an irresistible eccentric, an action star, and an Oscar-festooned serious actor. But the internet era overwrote those roles with another one, a cultural joke. In early 2000s, Cage, like Paul, found a new fame, a new kind of star for new kind of medium. And then, like Paul, he lost control over his new image and was reduced to a punchline. I see. So this is arguing that he was sort of a sexual appeal star before the internet memed him. But I'm not gonna lie, when I watched Moonstruck, I didn't go, wow, this guy's super sexual appeal. He was super, super weird in the movies. He's moved into a comeback phase, one that may restore him to respectability, if not reliable box office. None of his recent films have made a huge amount of money, but he is once again being well reviewed, appearing on talk shows and working with larger budgets and bigger studios after a career tailspin that felt potentially terminal. Let me see if I can guess exactly what era he's talking about. So we're saying like he was big here, I'm guessing. Face Off, he was huge. I'm guessing he was still huge in Adaption and National Treasure. So then we say like suddenly he became memed in like Wicker Man or something. I mean, wasn't he huge in Wicker Man too? And then what? He became memeified is their argument, and then he kind of disappeared a little here. These movies in between do look pretty smaller. I do, in my head, feel like he kind of disappeared out of the public eye. He was no longer doing National Treasure. Yeah. I just don't remember him being weird in National Treasure. So his comeback films vary in tone, style, budget, and quality, but they tend to share two things. At their heart, they are meta films whose real premise is that they star Nicolas Cage, and none of them would be successful without him. Now that's a stretch. I don't agree with that, but if you love Nicolas Cage that much, maybe that's how you feel. I don't think he's the best in Mandy. In fact, I think most people would argue that Andrea Riseborough is like one of the real reasons why Mandy's so unique. Cage plays a logger who wreaks a trippy sanguinary, I don't know that word, involving or causing much bloodshed. All right, how do we pronounce this?
Sanguinary.
Sanguinary. It doesn't sound bloody. Like bloody sounds like sanguinary or something. Cage plays a logger who wreaks a trippy sanguinary revenge on a cult that has kidnapped and murdered his wife. The film is a visual feast, but its true attraction... Is it? Did I miss the whole point of the film? I feel like the visual feast, the Mandy, her eyes... Like, that is way more interesting and important than Cage's acting. Honestly, his argument works. I actually like his point, but I think he fucked up by saying none of them would be successful without him. The promise it extends to viewers is that they will get to see its protagonist morph from a normal guy with a quiet domestic life to a madman dueling cultists with a chainsaw while covered in the viscera of multiple people slaughtered. I'm not sure if I feel that the reason why Nicolas Cage is a weird actor is because of his madman shit. I think his normal guy stuff is super weird. This is why I wanted to do a deep dive on him after watching Moonstruck, because in Moonstruck, he's fucking weird. He's so weird, and he's a normal guy. He's not some man killer. He's like, my arm, I'm so brokenhearted, my arm. I think he's weirder than everyone else in this movie. I think Cher is just like, I'm a crazy Italian. Nicolas Cage doesn't even feel like an Italian in this movie. He just feels off. And it's the same in Mandy when he's like talking romantically. I think he was already weird there. I don't think when he has blood on his face and he's chainsaw, I don't think that part is the true weird part. I think some people are overemphasizing the meta-ness of Nicolas Cage because of this movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And he plays a washed-up actor named Nicolas Cage who shares his namesake for financial problems. His love for Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, his bizarre terms for his own acting style, and his off-kilter line readings as he takes a job to appear at a bajillionaire's birthday party. He's haunted by his younger self, played by a digitally de-wrinkled Cage wearing a Wild at Heart t-shirt who extols present-day Nicolas Cage to live up to his earlier genius. The conceit is saved from vainglory by the gravity of Cage brings to the performance. He laces the self-parody with a real sense of loneliness and desperation, and he's entirely believable as a star mourning for his loss of acclaim. I'm actually very curious, if this movie did not come out, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, would people be talking about Cage in this sort of meta way? I still think the stuff about Mandy, or the stuff that he was just a weird actor and then became a meme and then became a weird actor again, but all this intentionality that people are putting on it, putting Nicolas Cage and Mandy elevates the movie because you know he's going to go crazy. And I'm not sure about that. In his 1995 essay on Pretentiousness, the playwright Tony Kushner describes a kind of irrationally exuberant American artist, a group that includes Walt Whitman, Herman Melville, and himself. The art they make is akin to lasagna, he writes, excessively, even suspiciously generous, promiscuous, flirtatious, insistent. There are membranes, but they are permeable. The layers must maintain their integrity, yet exist in an exciting dialectic tension to molten, oozy, cheesy, oily juices, which they separate. The genius of lasagna in both art making and cooking lies in the way it courts catastrophe. At any point, the noodles might dissolve. The cheese topping burns. The dish collapses into a soggy, oligoninate mess. Cage is the lasagna actor par excellence. Although capable of great delicacy, he also constantly threatens to overwhelm the membranes between good and bad taste. His early work in the 1980s is a catalog of disasters either narrowly avoided or driven directly into, depending on whom you ask. His eccentricity, waywardness, and longing to overturn the existing rules of performance, he harps back to Marlon Brando. But unlike Brando, who was the tip of the spear of the method revolution in Hollywood and trained for years with Stella Adler and Elia Kazan prior to breaking out in film, Cage has a little formal acting training outside of high school. He came of age as part of a generation that rejected method legacy of extensive study and disappearing into a role. His first two films, Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Valley Girl, were teen sex comedies, the latter featuring Cage as a romantic lead. I did watch these two films, so I don't remember him in here. Was he like a sexual butterfly? So he wasn't even casted as a sexual deviant. Oh, I see. Maybe this is like Nicolas Cage's sexual deviant. It's so hard to view this face as a sexual deviant now because we know him of such a meme kind of thing now. Sexual deviant? Just like a sexual icon. Like, do you think he's like sexy? A lot of actors are famous for being sexy, so they get picked for being sexy. But would you pick this guy to be sexy back then? I mean, this is not bad. But this is weird. He's weird. He looks weird. I think he looks weird here too. This is the only picture I think is like kind of hot. Chest hair? It could be a chest hair thing. I think he was casted in Moonstruck movie because he was supposed to be sexy, but I don't think he looks sexy at all. But if you like his chest hair, as you say, and it looks like he's balding since the beginning of time, he still hasn't lost his hair today. Like today's Nicolas Cage, even though you think he's balding early, still has the same hairstyle. As he told New York Times, Lawrence Oliver said, "What is acting but lying? What is good lying but convincing lying? I don't want to look at acting that way. Why not experiment?" So he's trying to make acting not about lying, which I can see. Like everyone sees his acting as like, what the fuck is going on? It's kind of like editing, I think. Good editing, a lot of people think, is also lying, which I actually agree with too. So that's why I do like a lot of films where the editing is very obvious, because I think it does something to the movie and reminds the viewer like, hello, this is a movie, this is not real, don't fucking take this that seriously, which I do kind of think people need to remember, because I don't know what is wrong with people, but sometimes we watch stories and then we like actually believe they're more real than reality. Cage, uninterested in delivering a conventionally convincing performance, which would instead create many of the most inedible roles of the 80s. Indelible, sorry. I read it as inedible, which means you can't eat it. I was like, oh yeah, you can't eat his sexy body in the 80s because he's ugly, and then I got confused, so I reread it. As Keith Phillips' delightful Age of Cage, 4 decades of Hollywood through one singular career. All of this made Cage a controversial figure from the beginning. He nearly got fired from Peggy Sue Got Married, owing to his insistence on wearing bizarre fake teeth and talking in a voice based on Pokey, the claymation pony sidekick on The Gumby Show. His co-star Kathleen Turner tried to warm him off the interpretation with a deadpan. Remember, film is a permanent record. That's pretty funny. She cringed to think of the work he did on the movie. On Raising Arizona, he clashed with Joel and Ethan Coen, who had a clear vision of what they wanted from the character and were not particularly interested in his ideas. During the filming of Moonstruck, alright, here it comes, the wildness of Cage's approach and the intensity of his choices led his director, Norman Jewison, to dub him the most tormented soul I've ever met. That's very funny, because in the movie, Nicolas Cage is called the most tormented soul I ever met. His character has also said this. In one particularly heated argument about whether or not Cage's character should be in a pivotal scene, the actor threw a chair across the room. So how did he get away with this? That's like what I don't understand too. If he was so fucking weird and experimental, why did people still want to use him? Like, was he that handsome? Some directors embrace his oddness of both look and effect. Cage landed the role of Randy, the hunk from the wrong side of town in Valley Girls, because he didn't fit the usual heartthrob mold. The film's director, Martha Coolidge, sick of seeing the pretty boys, the casting director had sent her, looked over at the discard pile. On top of the discard pile was this guy she called. I pulled the picture and I said, bring me somebody who looks like this. And it was Nick Cage. Key to his success is the way he combines boyish sweetness with a world wariness, a marriage of contrast enabled by his looking and acting far older than his years. I feel like his career is just super lucky, no? Cage's experimental tendencies reached their full expression with his now notorious work in the 1989's horror comedy Vampire's Kiss. The film centers on the hotshot literary agent who, in the midst of a mental breakdown, believes he's turning into a vampire. The director, Bob Bierman, gave Cage free rein to realize the role as he saw fit, and Cage took advantage of it. In the course of the film, he talks in a strange accent that merges his Los Angeles drawl with mid-Atlantic pretension. It's a live crossroads, does a pitch-perfect imitation of Max Schreck in Nosferatu, wanders the streets of New York asking real passerby to murder him with a stake, and in a particularly wild manner screams the entire alphabet at his therapist with his hand gestures keyed to the letters. Though his performance courts parody, every one of Cage's quirks in the film has an evident dramatic, rational, and even the boldest gambits were worked out in advance with precision. We chose this, a producer recalled Bierman saying, because if he did the role totally straight, the character is so hateful that it would be unwatchable. Experiments fail, of course, as anyone who has taken the 10th grade chemistry or has seen Cage in the remake of The Wicker Man can attest. But most of our experience do not live on the internet forever, whereas Cage's oeuvre of near constant and uneven experimentation does. You may not have seen Vampire's Kiss, but you have most certainly seen Cage's scenes from that film in which he recites the alphabet like a lunatic, or leers wide-eyed at the camera wearing plastic fangs. According to the Asia Cage, his memification began in the late aughts as a looping video clips of his work became popular on the website Building off Cage's notoriety as a camp icon, Andy Samberg began impersonating the actor as a collection of oddball mannerisms on Saturday Night Live. It didn't help that his career was already suffering from self-inflicted financial ruins, as catastrophic as they were widely reported and mocked. Like many of his peers, he had purchased a great deal of property and owned a collection of fancy cars, but he had also bought cobras and octopus, a haunted mansion, 2 islands in the Bahamas, and a dinosaur skull that he returned to the nation of Mongolia when it turned out to be stolen. He went from an estimated $150 million fortune to being millions of dollars in debt and owing IRS considerable back taxes, which in turn led to a quality be damned approach to the projects he signed on to. Cage made more than 24 films during the first decade of the new century. Some of these, such as Ghost Rider National Treasure, were box hits. Others, such as The Wicker Man's remake and Werner Herzog's Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, merely added more bizarre bits of business that could be wind up as memes. By the end of the aughts, Cage was less of an actor than a walking animated GIF. His tics cut and pasted away from the context in which they made sense. He was always a weirdo, but for the first 3 decades of his career, he was able to parlay this weirdness into mainstream success. This reductive nature of viral meme culture, the way it requires us all to become much narrower, commodified version of ourselves, rendered the artistry behind his weirdness invisible and took away any eccentric artist's great weapon, the ability to surprise. I see, this is very interesting to me. Cage's strength as an artist has always resided not simply in his weirdness, but his ability to move effortlessly between different molds. This versatility anchors the greatest performance of his career. Adaptation. In years leading up to the film, Cage has become Hollywood's go-to man for broken, tormented souls. In Adaptation, he got the chance to lampoon this image and embrace it at the same time, playing identical twins, Charlie and Donald Kaufman, and acting both halves of many scenes at once. Although the point of the film is that Charles and Donald were really two sides of the same person, Cage makes each feel like a fully realized character with a distinct personality, voice, and physicality. Charles is a neurosis in shame, hunched over, face frozen and rictus of repulsion at his own existence, worried constantly about rejection. Donald is ghoulish, joyous, without inhibition. Their scenes together are like many of Cage's other experiences, thrillingly alive and peculiar. Memification covered up by the protein quality of Cage's work make it appear simultaneously weirder and less interesting, in much the same way that algorithms deliver us songs that sound exactly like songs we already know rather than risk exposing us to new. For all his lampooning a male eagle, Dream Scenario's real target is the way the web has cut us all, has shrunk our complexities into a commodity, something to be briefly loved and then discarded as loathsome when it's no longer useful. Great realistic acting combats this humanization by transcending the self and becoming the character, holding out the hope that we can all transcend ourselves too, if only for a couple of hours. Nick Cage acting holds out a different hope, that we all are richer and stranger than we might think, or that the world can see. This idea that Nicolas Cage sort of became an internet meme and the surprise of his acting before disappeared is very interesting. It does make me curious about watching some of the movies on this list to see why some people think Vampire Kiss is a success and then Wicker Man is a failure. Because I know Wicker Man ended up being a boring film, but like, why did people truly find Vampire's Kiss like such a success of his experimental acting? And I'm not gonna lie, I don't even think his new acting stuff, when has he gone full crazy like he used to with Vampire's Kiss and Wicker Man? I think to say that he's still invested in the same type of experimentation today is completely false. But yeah, I think like a lot of acting, I'm always confused because when people say like, oh, this actor's so good, they're so versatile, they can do all these roles, I still feel like Nick Cage is still the same person in all the roles. Like, I still feel him. Just because he can be like a normal weird man and then a crazy weird man doesn't mean he's not weird in both roles. So I don't think that's like very versatile for me. All right, so let's check out this interview he did for Alamo Drafthouse.
So you're really good at imbuing your comedic characters with kind of dramatic flares and sadness, and your kind of sadder dramatic characters with some comedy. Like, how do you balance that out when you're in a drama or a comedy, you know, with those levels? Also, totally different question, National Treasure 3?
Okay, I have no answer to the last question. It's very simple. I read a dramatic piece and I look for the humor, and I read a funny piece and I look for the drama. And that's what I do. I want to have that balance. And the ratio, sometimes it's a dramedy, but I think that Larry's movie, Army of One, you know, there were some poignant emotional moments in that movie, and I think Larry's one of the better directors in terms of comedy at finding that. But it really is about that. I want to give it a mix so it is more like life than just a genre.
Do you ever, so like Army of One,
this is pretty cool. It's definitely not something I'm against, but this is what I mean by like, I don't think Nicolas Cage to me is such a diverse or variety actor in this way, because if this is your style of acting, you're always going to find the sort of counterpoint or the contradiction in the acting. You're always going to be a little you're going to be a little weird, you're going to be a little counter narrative. But there is merit in also looking at something sad and finding the specific sad thing that's way more sad than anyone else can read. And that's, in my opinion, I don't know if it's harder, but everyone can tap into the sadness, right? Because it's sad. But you can tap into something that's extra sad. And therefore, you connect with the audience even more intensely because you connected with something that's even more unique within the sort of sadness that everyone already can connect with. And I don't think Nicolas Cage will ever do a type of acting like this because he doesn't do that type of acting. He's never going to be varied to me. He's going to still feel like Nicolas Cage each time because he's doing the sort of, I'm going to be unique, I'm going to be different. I think for me, like maybe sports is a good analogy, right? I don't know. Maybe sports is a bad analogy when I think about it. I was thinking like, oh, someone can be the best basketball player, like LeBron James or Michael Jordan, but then you could play basketball with 3 hands, and then you'd be fucking weird. You'd be like the coolest basketball player in the world. But then I guess that doesn't make any sense. Who the fuck can play basketball with 3 hands?
character's a relatively kind of unlikable person,
Yeah.
but you love him. Is that a conscious thing that you do whenever you're doing those kinds of performances, or do you ever where you're like, is he just completely unlikable now?
Well, the thing is, and it was a lot more unlikable before they recut it. The thing is, I met Gary, and Gary, the first thing I noticed about Gary, and it was about a 2.5 hour, 3 hour interview, is he could not stop talking. And I was like, oh man, I've got a lot of work in front of me. There's gonna be a lot of dialogue in this movie. How am I gonna memorize it? And they kept changing the script, but the issue there was, Gary has some edge to him. For him to do what he did, he's got some edge to him, and Larry and I were both looking at it like, well, we've got to be real to the aura of the personality, but we also have to find ways of keeping him in the likable zone, in the fun zone. And so that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, somebody else have one? There.
When it comes to choosing projects, like even today, we've seen you in parts of South Africa, we've seen you in Bangkok, we've seen you outside of Boston. Is the locale and immersing yourself in a culture important for when you choose a project?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. I mean, I think I actually made a conscious decision at some point in my career in my work, to try to go to different areas that I had not been to, because I believe in a thing called the genus loci, or the genie of the place. And I think that the location itself can inform performance and inform character. And let's say I work with a director, or in this case, the two twin Chinese brothers, Danny and Oxide Pang, who did Bangkok Dangerous. And that's a funny story in itself. They looked exactly alike, and they wouldn't tell me which one was directing me, because they would alternate days. And they would mess with my head with that one. But anyway.
That's pretty cool.
I thought they got something out of me there. That cultural or the whatever they were going for within the context of their vision and their culture, and it also happened with John Woo. I thought that brought something out of me. Like they can find something within me and rediscover me. And I also like the idea of going to exotic places. I thought, you're right. I mean, I looked at those movies. I was like, wow, I was in Bangkok and I was in South Africa, and and it brought back memories, but it definitely informed performance.
Wait, so what is Nicolas Cage's Bangkok movie? Bangkok Dangerous? And these guys are what, Chinese, he said? Oh, they're both from Hong Kong, I see. Oh, they did The Eye. I love this film. And they're actually twins? They don't look like twins now. Wait a second. There's an original Bangkok Dangerous that's actually Thai people only. And then they made a remake with Nicolas Cage. That's crazy. And it's the same directors. They made a remake with Nicolas Cage, but it's the same directors. For some reason, they made the movie, then they thought to themselves, oh, I know what we should do. We should make this movie again, but with Nicolas Cage instead. That's crazy. Why would you do that? 2 Bangkok Dangerouses. This is a cool discovery. I love this. Oh, it's their first movie. The original version is their first movie. The original film's main character is Deaf Hitman. That character has been changed in the remake. Oh, Soy Cowboy. Entertainment District was among Thai's location used for filming. So I can see Soy Cowboy in 2008.
Is there a character or story that you have not told that you just itching to do, or that you've always wanted to do?
Well, I always thought that I would make I'd make a good Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Because my first love is the ocean. I've always been fascinated by the sea and marine life, and I thought that I could really play that character with heart and passion, because that character loves the sea more than anybody in literature.
Yeah, somebody else have a question? Right here.
In Face Off, you played John Travolta's character playing you, and
Yeah.
Adaptation, you played twins. And I wonder if you enjoy seeking out sort of acting challenges like that, or if you approach them differently when you're preparing.
Yeah, I mean, Face Off was really, that was almost cubist in the research, and or a Valley Girl would say tripendicular. I mean, it was like, I would get the dailies of John's work, and I'd have to get his vocal rhythms, and he was getting the dailies of my work, and then we had to like switch back and put each other's faces on and try to be not him with his face or not me with without his face. I mean, it was a mind meld. Adaptation was probably the most acrobatic challenge I've ever had to do as a film actor, and because I was playing Charlie, and then I was playing Donald, and I'd have an earpiece in my ear, and here what I did is, first Spike would say, well, how are you feeling this morning? Are you more, did you get out of bed on the right side or the left side? And are you cranky? Are you jolly? Because Donald was jolly and Charlie was cranky. And I was like, I think maybe we'll start with Charlie today. And then I would do everything as Charlie, and then they'd put an earwig in my ear. And then I'd be playing Donald, and I'd have to act off of a tennis ball on a mic stand and listen to what I had done as Charlie, and then react to that tennis ball as Donald. So that got really exhausting. It was like, I remember some days I was just like, ah! But yes, to answer your question, I do like a challenge. I see someone all the way in the back.
You see better than that. Yeah, I see that person too. You go ahead.
Hi. I'm sorry?
What do you think of the memes?
Of the meme? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I try not to think about it, but how could I not but think about it? Because there was a few memes today, right there in my face. But I think it's now. It's au courant. It's modern times, and I'm joining the club.
Follow-up question to that. Do any of them you look at and you go, oh, that's pretty funny. I should forward that in an email to like my uncle or something.
No, I do not. I don't forward memes. I don't record memes. I really don't look at memes. But here we are. Well, I see my face on your shirt right there.
Some of my favorite movies that you've done are Matchstick Men
and
Leaving Las Vegas. Because your performances are so convincing, and I have to know, like, how do you study for something like that for being an alcoholic or having a mental illness and that? Like, do you pull that from real life?
Well, sometimes you do get a little method and you live the part. And in terms of Leaving Las Vegas, I'm glad it was only a 4-week shoot, because I did have a drinking coach on that movie. His name was Tony Digman. He's a poet. He was a drunk. He came out of San Francisco. He works with my uncle, and I had him on the set, and I was studying him and watching him as he was drinking. And then sometimes he would like say, well, for this scene, I think we can administer you like maybe 1 shot of bourbon. And some scenes most of the scenes I was completely dry, but there were some scenes where I thought, you know what, I want to take this to another level of reality. And I was just blotto, and that was the scene in the casino when I threw the table and said, I'm his father, I'm his father. I was completely out of it. And I remember crawling with Tony on all 4s back to the hotel room and not even being able to make it in the hotel room because we were past that in the hotel room hallway. And I woke up in the morning and I had a report for duty, and they were pretty nervous. But I'm very proud of that scene. But yeah, sometimes you get method, sometimes you just, you record. You do research, you look at other people who have conditions, you take interviews with people, and again, sometimes you just give yourself over to the imagination and just will yourself to believe you're in that condition.
Could you give us either your best audition story or a Sean Connery, if you have a Sean Connery story?
I think the audition story is the better story.
Go for it.
I was studying Wing Chun Gung Fu, and did a little of that in Bangkok Dangerous. I was about 13, and I had befriended a guy who was making movies. It was kind of like the more cerebral.
I'm checking when, this interview was actually done before Mandy even, so I think that's good context, because now I'm thinking about it, I was like, where is he in his life right now?
And he said that he had to go to an audition for The Dating Game. Do you remember that show, The Dating Game? This might make you want to get another Caged.
Oh, yeah, no, Very easy.
I went to the audition. I said, you know what? His name was Julian. I said, Julian, his name is Julian Smillian. You can look him up. They'll have it somewhere. I want to do this audition. And I sat down on the panel. I was 13, 14, or I don't remember. I was very young. And I started going totally off.
It's
the
kind of
wall
cold in this room.
and answering all the questions. And they said, well, what's your name? I said, well, my name's Nikki, and what you're Nikki Coppola. Yeah, Nikki Coppola. Well, we want you to go on the dating game. And I got the gig, and that audition tape has to be somewhere. And then my dad said, no, you're not going on the dating game. You're way too young. What do you mean you're going on the dating game? You're not even old enough to go on a date. But that is out there somewhere.
So you've done a lot of different types of movies, like different genres, like you'll jump from Leaving Las Vegas to something like The Rock. Do you actively like seek out different projects, or do you just kind of take what comes your way?
I was always looking to, when it was time to zig, I wanted to zag, and when it was time to zag, I wanted to zig, and I had done Leaving Las Vegas and The Rock within the same year, and I like that polarity. I like that dichotomy. That's falls into the category of challenge and keeping things fresh and doing what you're told you can't do. One of the keys to survival, I think, in Hollywood is to never get typecast or pigeonholed. Although the danger with that is that if you don't give them some level of certainty, then you can scare an audience away. And some actors, I do think, fall into the trap of safety where they don't want to take those chances. But for me, it was always what kept me interested. I would not want to keep playing the same genre or the same type of character over and over again. I have to find ways of staying interested in the material.
Are there any roles that you regret taking, and then are there any roles that you passed on that you regret not taking?
There are always, I'm not going to say regrets, because I have learned from every mistake, and I do mean that. But there are movies that I've made that certainly have not worked, but I can't dwell on that. I have to move forward, otherwise I won't be able to keep working. It'll affect my confidence. But there's roles that I've passed on that I probably should have done or might have done, but scheduling didn't work. I mean, I didn't have the time. I was, raising a young son, and I couldn't go to New Zealand for 3 years or Australia for a year. But I don't really want to mention those names, what movies those were. Because,
Lord of the Rings, though, right?
Yeah, well,
I got 2 years. I figured out what movie shoots for 3 years.
right. And your man Elijah,
Yeah.
he lives here, right?
Yeah, he's got a house not far.
That's fantastic.
What is the worst meal anyone could ever put in front of you?
A weird question.
I know.
Yeah.
There's this British show that puts hell and heaven dishes in front of people.
I like you brought a lot of your personal shit to this today. and then you were like, you know what I should do in a room full of 200 people? Throw that at Nicolas Cage. Yeah, what's the worst thing I could put in front of you?
Worst meal. I'm kind of like an Epicurean.
I'm trying to think.
I like to explore tastes.
Yeah, for me, I don't even know what worst meal for me. Pure durian, maybe. Durian salad. Durian salad with durian mush.
I want to have an educated palate. I might try to, get past whatever initial dislike I have. I can't. Nothing's coming to my mind right now. I'm so sorry. I can't think of the worst meal right now. I just honestly can't think about it.
I think it's okay that you don't have an actual answer. He loves all foods.
I know in showbiz, like you mentioned scheduling earlier, a lot of times there's projects you can't do simply because contracts fall through or things like that. But I imagine Superman would have been one of those toughest pills to swallow since it's so iconic, and you wore the suit and you looked in the mirror in the suit, and it's more than just the character or just the material. So I was wondering if you still look back on that with maybe not regrets, but fond memories, or wish you could have done it, or if you see that as just another one of those Hollywood things that didn't work out.
I think that Tim and I were onto something. I mean, I saw the drawings. I saw what he was going to bring to the world, and I knew where I was going to go, and I think that it would have been special. But again, I have no regrets. And
What is this
that's
Superman
one of
thing
those
they're
hot
talking
topics that if I
about?
say anything about
Superman Nicolas Cage. Ah, canceled project. Dude, what the hell? I mean, this would have been crazy. This is so funny. I mean, I think he would have been a cool Superman. That would have been awesome. I do think it's funny, too, because his beer belly is quite big right now. I mean, I shouldn't be talking, because I don't have just a beer belly.
it's going to go all over the internet, and there'll be another meme, and I'm trying to get away from it.
All right. So
This
I'm
video is
gonna
brought to you by
watch this too,
ExpressVPN.
and I'll be
You know
back.
that this is good acting.
You talking to me?
You know that this is bad acting.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating.
Good,
I mean, is that really that bad?
have doubts.
bad.
Oh, hi, Mark.
But what the heck is this?
A, B, C, D, E,
All right,
F,
I'm gonna
G,
be
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Here we see Nick Cage in the 1988 film Vampire's Kiss, a performance that spawned 20 million memes. In a film with otherwise normal performances and cinematography, Cage spoke like this.
The work's not just gonna go away, Alva. It never just goes away. The contract is somewhere in those files!
Ran like this,
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
and ate a live cockroach like this. By the way, we just covered this insanely kinda awesome movie on our movie podcast, Show Me the Meaning. We're actually doing a full month of Nicolas Cage films, so check out the links in the description to join us on this journey into the cagey abyss. Movies like Vampire's Kiss provide some clue as to why Nick Cage's acting career is one of the most disputed of any leading Hollywood star.
The tortures of the damned!
Some people love the guy. Ethan Hawke calls him the only actor to evolve the craft since Marlon Brando, while David Lynch dubbed him the jazz musician of acting. Now I know what you're thinking. This Nick Cage?
Not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Open my eyes! My eyes! Ah!
This Nick Cage? The Nick Cage that's motivation for this scene was,
My whole motivation here was to try to see how big I could get my eyes, just to freak her out.
yep, that Nick Cage.
Am I f***ing retarded?
In recent years, Cage has become just as well known for the ridiculous memes he inspires as the roles he plays, leaving us movie lovers at Wisecrack really and truly befuddled. So today in this Wisecrack edition, we're asking, Nicolas Cage, deep or dumb? Let's investigate. Who is Nick Cage anyway? Nephew of director Francis Ford Coppola, Cage is arguably one of the hardest working actors in Hollywood, with over 73 films in his repertoire. The guy's also pretty bad with money, which may have something to do with his apparent inability to turn down any paying gig. He's an unusual Hollywood leading man, having appeared in stinkers, weirdly great indie films, big action films, and everything in between. His refusal to be typecast also makes him difficult to wrap your head around. He's basically half leading man, half character actor. To understand Nicolas Cage and this,
T-U-V-W-X-Y-Z!
we need to put him in the broader context of film performance history. When the first silent narrative films started being made, they drew largely from the most popular performance entertainment of the time, theater, and particularly the genres of melodrama and vaudeville. Both forms called for large, sweeping gestures that could be as easily understood in the balcony as in the front row. This tradition was coupled with the limitations of the silent film genre, which had zero verbal communication other than this fancy typeset. Actors had only their faces and their bodies to work with. That meant a lot of wide eyes, ugly crying, and berserko gestures. It wasn't realistic, and it didn't try to be. Then in the late 1920s, talkie films with synchronized sound started becoming technologically and commercially viable. Suddenly, actors were forced to rethink their entire craft, a crisis best encapsulated by this moment in Singin' in the Rain, in which a famous silent film actor clumsily attempts to translate his craft into the new era of sound.
I love you, I love you, I love you, love you.
Did somebody get paid for writing that dialogue?
Change was slow, and movies of the 1930s typically show stars expressing a heightened reality that harkens back to their silent film roots.
You ain't mad at me, men, are you? No! I ain't mad at you.
Importantly, just a few years earlier, America had been introduced to the groundbreaking techniques of Konstantin Stanislavski, a Russian acting coach whose ideas about realism would eventually be turned into method acting. Basically, Stanislavski and method acting attempt to help actors channel emotional truth from within.
Hey, Stella!
As these techniques became adapted from theater to film, actors began turning their characters into fully rounded people, and sometimes briefly living as those people, like Daniel Day-Lewis, who spent the entire production of My Left Foot in a wheelchair. These antics were eventually packaged as publicity gold, which is why Leo almost froze to death and why Jared Leto mailed out dead pig heads. Anyway, Method's emphasis on realism,
He's
coupled
talking
with
about
the
method
enhanced
acting.
realism offered by sound film, congealed in the 40s and 50s and swept Hollywood. Actors like Marlon Brando became famous for disappearing into a character. While there have certainly been ripples of other directing and acting styles, such as the dementedly over-the-top campy performances seen in John Waters films,
Someone will pay with their life for this grossly offensive act!
Mama, nobody sends you a turd and expects to live. Nobody!
there's remained an overwhelming emphasis on realism as the goal of acting for film. We typically award Oscars to actors who have disappeared into their roles, frequently while portraying real
I don't think
people,
John Waters
which is all
actors
well and good.
ever won anything, so why would... Yeah.
Except when we become dogmatic about it. Cinema scholar Carol Zucker argues that the idea that acting for film should adhere to a standard of gestural and psychological verisimilitude, i.e. realness or trueness,
Oh, I see. Verisimilitude is a real film term then. Interesting.
suggests a limited vision of performance. Basically, what if the dominance of realism in acting has left us with a narrow vision of what acting can be? Is the reason Nick Cage performances look so weird because he falls outside this view? That's the persuasive argument made by author Lindsay Gibb in National Treasure, her book-long love letter to the actor. Gibb recounts the way Nick Cage originally embraced method acting, even having 2 teeth removed for his role as the injured veteran in 1984's Birdie. But Cage quickly tired of the style, thus began the truly Cagean search for a form of acting that went beyond.
It's too late! Too late! Too late! Too late! It's too late, Albert! It's all too late, Albert!
In 1990, he told American Film, "I wanted to put back into acting a more surreal or experimental style that wasn't totally run by literalism, which seemed like a dead end." Cage considers Vampire's Kiss to have been the laboratory for the new ideas he was toying with. A low-stakes indie setting where he could experiment, play, and recite his
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Sorry, we really love that scene.
I never misspelled anything!
In Vampire's Kiss, we start to see the Nick Cage we've come to know and meet.
There you are!
He makes bold, daring choices that take advantage of all aspects of his physicality, including some patently goofy facial expressions. While we're accustomed to seeing some of this broad style acting in every era of screwball comedy, Cage would go on to employ it fearlessly, whether he's working in melodrama, action, or horror.
Glass or plastic? Glass or plastic?
He is unapologetically performative. While that quality proves confusing for the viewer in naturalistic films like Vampire's Kiss, it tends to work really well in movies that push the limits of reality. Movies set in surreal worlds that can accommodate his bold choices. Take Cage's bombastic performance in Moonstruck, which is fitting for a film preoccupied with the dramatics of opera. As Ronnie, the long-estranged brother of Teresa's fiancé Johnny, Cage expresses a
I mean, that's just so funny because I feel like Moonstruck, even though it is dramatic, it's still, he doesn't fit in it. I don't know why people are arguing he does. He doesn't.
Volatility that is captivating to watch.
I lost my hand! I lost my bride! Johnny has his hand! Johnny has his bride!
Over 30 years later, in Mandy, Cage gives an unrestrained heavy metal performance only appropriate for an LSD-fueled film featuring a sword boner. Similarly, in the dream world of David Lynch's Wild at Heart, Cage's outrageous, brain-bashing Elvis crooning sailor feels right at home.
This is a snakeskin jacket. And for me, it's a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom.
Cage's dialed-up style can work, provided the filmmaker and the other actors are in on it. Cage's outrageous antics lead many a critic to deem him out of control or over the top.
Was that not blackface?
But under understanding how he approaches his craft kinda changes everything. Cage is incredibly thoughtful and incredibly well versed in the craft of acting. Some of his most famously ridiculous moments are planned out, move by move by move. Take the famous alphabet recitation, of which Cage says every one of those moves, each hand clap, hip thrust, pout, and holler was carefully thought and planned out. At other times, Cage takes inspiration from kabuki, a Japanese avant-garde performance art that combines acting, dancing, and singing with extreme stylization. That's probably where Cage's tendency to ad-lib made-up lyrics comes from, best seen in this drunken interlude in Leaving Las Vegas.
Like the cling clang king of the rim ram room.
Gibb argues that what Cage calls his Western kabuki style and its appreciation for the hyper-performative is the reason he tends to adopt a different voice for every character he plays.
I said, put the bunny back in the box.
For his own part, Cage says his vocal experimentation has been an attempt to use his voice in an almost heavy metal or operatic or baroque way.
Have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Indeed, it doesn't get more heavy metal than his screaming scenes in Mandy.
I mean, it's interesting because me and my friend, we don't think he's that crazy in Mandy. But I guess in a way, Mandy is made for him to do this, so he doesn't even look the craziest. But I do think like he looks fucking insane in Moonstruck because I don't think he fits.
Cage's insane attention to the details of body movements is the reason his characters in adaptation feel so persuasively different. Cage plays twin brothers who represent the two sides of screenwriter Charlie Kaufman's personality. Charlie is a neurotic, chronic overthinker obsessed with making genuine art, while Donald is the charismatic Hollywood sellout. Fittingly, they move like two entirely different people, an affect Cage says he created by adjusting his spine. For Charlie's rigid and controlled movements, Cage hunched over and tensed up, while he straightened his back and loosened up to portray the more go-with-the-flow Donald. At other points, Cage draws inspiration from German Expressionism, commonly viewed as the first real film movement, which explored the horrors of post-World War I life in Germany through highly emotional, subjective storytelling. Dreamlike horror films defined the genre, depicting nightmarish worlds filled with twisted, terrifying villains. These films left a lasting impact on the film world, influencing genres like film noir, horror, and even graphic novels like Sin City. Nick Cage isn't one to miss out on the fun. In interviews, he's described watching classic German Expressionist films like Nosferatu and Metropolis as a kid, and described the way certain distinct hand motions, like this famous gesture in Moonstruck, were inspired by those films.
Oh shit! So that movie is the guy's Oracle's Hands or whatever it's called. Some dude who can't stop playing piano or something.
Described the way certain distinct hand motions, like this famous gesture in Moonstruck, were inspired by those films. At other times, he's modeled the character's physical attributes off characters from German Expressionist films. Other times, he'll take things to a more mystical level. Take his role as Johnny Blaze in Ghost Rider, a performance that was widely panned. Gibb describes how Cage adopted what he calls Nouveau shamanism, in which he integrated Afro-Caribbean techniques and sewed thousand-year-old Egyptian artifacts into his clothing. He also prepared by painting his face white and black like a voodoo priest. All these techniques were meant to trick him into thinking he's a character from another dimension with special powers. Now keep in mind this was all in preparation for this role. Rather than phoning in his superhero turn, Cage decided to push the boundaries of what is comfortable. For his Oscar-winning performance in Leaving Las Vegas, Cage studied cinema's most convincing alcoholics and even hired a drunk actor to hang out with him in his trailer. As a constant student of the craft, he takes on roles not because they'll improve his reputation, clearly. Instead, he tries radically new genres, roles, and pulls from new influences. Whether he's channeling ancient vampires or even more ancient shamans, Nicolas Cage defiantly refuses to conform to realism, drawing into question why that's even a benchmark for our understanding of good acting. We don't fault the song Yellow Submarine for unrealistically depicting the aquatic life. Modernist authors like Virginia Woolf are deemed revolutionary for the way their highly stylized novels depict life in the abstract, creating unreliable timelines and dreamlike narratives. Meanwhile, musicians like Arnold Schoenberg and John Cage are considered geniuses for breaking every rule of normal music making. So why do we consider a departure from realism to be an explicitly bad thing only when it comes to acting? Well, we'll venture a guess. Film with its close-ups and point-of-view shots is arguably the most intimate art form. When we so closely identify with a central character, we naturally expect the performer to behave approximately the way that we would. Part of why Nick Cage can be so maddening to watch is that he specifically refuses to do just that.
Well, I think you better pull the trigger, because I don't give a f***.
He's also generally working with people who don't ascribe to his acting philosophy, like if a death metal singer subbed in at his local church choir.
It is true. This is like one of the more unique things is that when he's acting, all the other actors are being normal. It's just him, he's not. So I think in a way when he's the main character and he doesn't have as much interactions with other people, his acting is less interesting. We like to watch him have an interaction with other people, and when you don't have an interaction with other people, it's basically him just being crazy. But when he's interacting with people, then you can see, oh, he's crazy with this person, and this person trying to be normal, and he's not letting them. And then that's kind of like, oh, this is very weird and very interesting.
His wild reactions and bug-eyed expressions confuse our expectations. They also make for particularly ridiculous moments that, in a meme which erases the context of the film, makes his performance seem ridiculous. But what if there are actual merits to his out-there performance style? Compare Nicolas Cage's Peter in Vampire's Kiss to Christian Bale's charismatic and murderous Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. While both films are poking fun at the corporate yuppie culture of the 80s, Bale's Bateman has become an iconic anti-hero who is weirdly revered and perversely admired for his highly specific brand of social status obsessiveness.
Look at that subtle off-white coloring. The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my god. It even has a watermark.
In comparison, Cage's Peter is so inaccessible, so clearly performative, that he runs no risk of becoming sympathetic to the audience. Still, there's a reason we're talking about Nick Cage and not, say, Chris Pratt's acting style. It's compelling, it's different, it's controversial, and ultimately, it's subjective. You have every right to consider this ridiculous, or to consider it totally awesome. Either way, we'd argue that with a few more Nick Cages, Hollywood might just be a lot more interesting. You don't have to be president of your local Nick Cage fan club to construe value in what he's doing. In fact, you can straight up find him absurd. No matter what, you gotta admit, he's pretty interesting. So, what do you think? Is Nick Cage deep or dumb? Let us know what you think in the comments.
Well, it could prove to be useful information. Maybe!
I think the thing in the end is like, yes, one, we like Nick Cage because he's unique, and we would love Hollywood to have more of these actors. But I still have no idea how people allowed Nick Cage to be who he is, because I feel like a ton of people would see his movies and be like, what the fuck? I mean, see his acting and be like, what the fuck? You're ruining my movie. Get the fuck out. But yeah, number two is like this meme thing. I do think initially people were talking about Nick Cage meme stuff as not being great, but I think it's part of his entire story, and I actually think it's very interesting. The article we read is very critical of him becoming a meme, but I feel like I respect Nick Cage more after he became a meme and then is reviving his career today. But of course, he had way more fans. He had fans already back before he really became this meme and destroyed his career per se. I do agree with this conclusion that he is a very weird actor and he takes a very weird spot in Hollywood.